Christmas is supposed to be the time when the world feels small, warm, and safe. For a 4-year-old, it's the morning the magic becomes real. My daughter, Lily, had been counting down the days for an entire month. She didn't want much, just a small doll she had seen in a window and, most importantly, a surprise from her Grandpa Joe. But on Christmas morning, as the wrapping paper lay scattered like colorful confetti on the floor, there was a heavy, cold silence where a grandfather's love should have been. My father sat in his armchair, sipping coffee, looking at my daughter with eyes that seemed miles away. "Dad," I whispered, leaning in so Lily wouldn't hear, "where is her gift? You said you picked something special." He didn't even look at me. He just set his mug down on the coaster and sighed. "I forgot, Sarah. It's just another day, isn't it? Besides, she has enough toys. She wouldn't even have noticed if you hadn't brought it up." I felt a cold shiver that had nothing to do with the winter air. It wasn't just the missing toy. It was the way he said it, as if my daughter, his only grandchild, was an invisible burden. I looked at Lily, who was clutching a small ribbon she'd found, looking at her grandpa with hopeful, confused eyes. I smiled for her, but my heart was breaking. I thought he had just grown forgetful in his old age. I thought maybe he was tired. I didn't realize that his forgetfulness was a choice. I didn't know that while Lily's spot under the tree was empty, he had spent weeks preparing for a different family, a family I didn't even know existed. The truth wasn't just that he forgot a gift. The truth was that he was trying to forget us. To understand why this hurts so much, you have to understand who my father used to be. Growing up, my dad was my hero. He was the man who could fix a broken bicycle with a piece of wire and a smile. He was the man who worked 2 jobs just to make sure I had a proper dress for my school dance. We weren't rich, but my childhood felt wealthy because of him. Every Christmas, he would go overboard. He would hide my main gift in the most ridiculous places. Once, he even hid a new bike in the neighbor's garage and made a treasure map for me to find it. He loved the joy of giving. He loved being the person who made the magic happen. When my mother passed away 5 years ago, something in him dimmed. It was like a lamp losing its oil. I understood his grief. I stayed by his side. When Lily was born, I saw a spark return to his eyes. He held her like she was made of glass. He called her his little bird. But over the last year, a shadow had fallen over our relationship. He started canceling our Sunday dinners. He stopped picking up the phone when I called to tell him about Lily's first day of preschool. I told myself he was just struggling with the loneliness of the house. I thought he needed space to process his life without Mom. "He's just getting older, Sarah," my husband, Mark, would tell me. "Give him time, he'll come around." So I kept trying. I invited him for Christmas weeks in advance. I told him how much Lily missed him. He promised he would be there. He promised he would bring the big surprise. I spent Christmas Eve baking his favorite ginger cookies. I made sure his seat by the fireplace was ready. I wanted this to be the year he felt like part of a family again. I wanted him to feel the warmth we had waiting for him. I had no idea that he had already built a wall between us, a wall made of secrets and a past I was never supposed to find. The tension started the moment he walked through the door on Christmas Eve. He didn't have any bags with him, no colorful gift bags, no hidden boxes, just his coat and his car keys. "I'll bring the gift in tomorrow morning," he said shortly when I asked. "It's in the trunk. It's too heavy to move twice." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? This was my father. But throughout dinner, he was restless. He kept checking his phone, something he used to hate doing at the table. He barely ate the roast I had spent all day preparing. Every time Lily tried to show him her drawings or tell him a story about her school's holiday play, he would just nod and say, "That's nice, Lily," without even looking at the page. I saw the confusion on my daughter's face. Children are like mirrors. They reflect the energy around them. She became quiet. She sat closer to me, sensing the chill coming from her grandfather. "Is Grandpa mad at me?" she whispered to me while we were cleaning up. "No, honey," I lied, my chest tightening. "Grandpa's just tired. He's had a long drive." Christmas morning came. Lily ran to the tree, her face glowing. We opened our gifts to each other. We waited for Dad to go to the car, but he just sat there. He watched us open things with a look of boredom. When the last gift was unwrapped, Lily looked at the door, then at him. "Grandpa, is the surprise in the car now?" she asked softly. That's when he said it. That's when he told her he had forgotten. He didn't even apologize. He didn't say, "I'm so sorry, sweetheart, I'll get it tomorrow." He just said it was just a day. I felt a surge of protectiveness I had never felt before. It wasn't about the toy, it was about the dismissal of a child's heart. Mark tried to distract Lily with her new blocks, but the air in the room had turned to ice. I went into the kitchen to start coffee, my hands shaking. My father followed me. "Don't make a big deal out of this, Sarah," he said, leaning against the counter. "Kids have too much anyway. She'll forget by tomorrow." "It's not about the toy, Dad," I said, my voice low and trembling. "It's about you being here. It's about you caring. You've been acting like we're strangers for months. What is going on?" He just looked at me with a coldness I didn't recognize. "Life moves on, Sarah. People change. You can't expect me to be the same man forever." He left an hour later. No hug for Lily, no Merry Christmas for me. He just drove away in his silver sedan, leaving us in a house that felt suddenly very empty. The truth came to light 2 days later. I couldn't sleep. The image of Lily's face when he said he forgot kept playing in my mind. I decided to go to his house. I thought maybe he was having a medical issue. Maybe he was depressed. I wanted to help him, even if he was being cruel. I arrived at his house unannounced. His car was gone, but the front door was unlocked, something he never did. I walked inside, calling his name. "Dad, it's Sarah." The house was silent, but it wasn't the house I remembered. On the dining room table, there were bags, dozens of them. Expensive bags from toy stores, clothing boutiques, and jewelry shops. Most of them were empty, the contents gone. I walked over, my heart drumming against my ribs. I saw a receipt on the floor. It was for a Grand Deluxe dollhouse, the exact one Lily had pointed out in the catalog. The date on the receipt was December 22nd. He hadn't forgotten. He had bought it. But where was it? I walked into his small home office. On his desk was a tablet left open to a social media page. It wasn't his page. It was a page for a woman named Diane. I scrolled through the photos. There was my father. He was smiling, really smiling, the way he used to smile with my mother. He was standing in a beautifully decorated living room that wasn't his. In front of him were 2 children, a boy and a girl, maybe 6 and 8 years old. In the corner of the photo was the dollhouse, Lily's dollhouse. The caption read, "Thank you to Grandpa Joe for making our kids' Christmas so magical. We are so lucky to have found you this year. Family isn't just blood, it's who shows up." I felt like the floor had vanished beneath my feet. My father hadn't forgotten us. He had replaced us. I looked through more photos. Apparently, Diane was a woman he had met at a grief support group a year ago. She was a single mother with 2 kids. For months, my father had been spending his weekends there. He had been paying their rent. He had been buying their groceries. He had been their Grandpa Joe while he was becoming a ghost in our lives. I stood in that silent office, holding the receipt for the dollhouse he gave to a stranger's child, while my daughter cried in my arms. The betrayal was so deep it felt physical. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't old age. It was a calculated trade. He had traded his daughter and his granddaughter for a fresh start where he didn't have to deal with the clutter of his real life and his real grief. I was still standing there when I heard the garage door open. I didn't run, I didn't hide. I sat in his office chair and waited. When he walked in, he was carrying more bags. He saw me, and for a second, a flash of guilt crossed his face, but it was quickly replaced by a hard, defensive mask. "What are you doing here, Sarah? You have no right to be in my house." "I came to see if you were okay," I said, my voice dead and flat. "But I see you're doing better than okay. You're doing great. Grandpa Joe was quite the hero." I pointed to the tablet. He didn't even flinch. "They needed me, Sarah," he said, stepping into the room. "Diane and those kids, they appreciate what I do. With you, everything is a reminder of your mother. Everything is about the past. With them, I can just be me. I can start over." "You didn't start over, Dad," I whispered. "You abandoned your granddaughter. You lied to her face on Christmas morning. You bought her dollhouse and gave it to someone else. How do you live with that?" "I don't owe you an explanation," he said, his voice rising slightly but staying cold. "I spent 30 years being the father you wanted. I'm tired. I want to spend my remaining years being happy. If that means I don't have time for your Sunday dinners and your magic Christmases, then so be it." I looked at him, really looked at him. I saw a man who was so afraid of the pain of his own memories that he was willing to burn down the people who loved him just to stay warm. He wasn't the hero who fixed my bike anymore. He was a stranger who happened to share my DNA. "You're right, Dad," I said, standing up. "You don't owe me an explanation, and I don't owe you my heart anymore." I walked out of that house. He didn't follow me. He didn't try to stop me. I drove home in the dark, crying until my eyes burned. But by the time I pulled into my driveway, the tears had stopped. I walked inside and saw Mark and Lily on the floor, playing with her blocks. The house felt warm. It felt real. I realized that I couldn't force my father to be a grandfather. I couldn't make him value the blood in his veins over the convenience of a new life. I told Mark everything that night. We decided together that we wouldn't tell Lily the truth. Not yet. We told her Grandpa was going on a long trip. We went out the next day and bought her the dollhouse ourselves. We told her it was a late delivery from the North Pole. The joy on her face was worth every penny. But the real gift was the realization that our family didn't need a man who chose to be absent. It has been a year since that Christmas. We haven't spoken to my father. I heard through a relative that he is still with Diane, still playing the role of the perfect grandfather for hire. Sometimes it still stings when I see a silver sedan or hear a song he used to like. But then I look at Lily. She is growing so fast. She is happy. She is loved by people who don't have to be reminded to show up. I learned a very hard lesson that year. I learned that family is a verb. It's not a title you get because you were there at the beginning. It's a choice you make every single day. You can't replace memories by painting over them, and you can't find happiness by running away from the people who know your history. My father chose a life without clutter, but he didn't realize that the clutter, the scraped knees, the ginger cookies, the pencil marks on the door, that is where the love lives. Without it, you're just a man in a room full of empty bags. If you are listening to this and you've been hurt by someone who was supposed to love you unconditionally, please remember, their choice is not a reflection of your worth. You are not forgotten just because someone was too blind to see your value. Build your own magic. Surround yourself with people who don't need a receipt to prove they care. Because at the end of the day, the best Christmas gift isn't under a tree.